Hi, I'm Keith Reed, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about Rack to Retail, my media project. Rack to Retail is going to be providing a range of digital content to fuel retailers, wholesale marketers, home energy professionals, and related industry audiences. The content will be both originally generated by me, but also submitted by trusted industry sources. It's going to be digital. It's going to be both video and text based. The text articles will be available at my website. The video at the YouTube channel. And also, I'm going to independently host the video for those of you who don't want to sit through YouTube's internal advertising. Topics covered include regulation, legislation, company and individual profiles. Really want to hear about what folks in the industry are doing, energy markets, the fuels and charging, products and services, and generally provide insight into the host of operational issues in all of the sectors. So, who am I? Well, I've spent the past 26 years serving our slice of the downstream petroleum industry through a range of publications. My first magazine in the industry was National Petroleum News, or NPN magazine. I started there in 1999 as a writer, then editor, then senior editor, managing editor, then in 2007, editor in chief. NPN was an historic magazine, dated back to 1909, was considered the Bible of the industry. NPN International was, as the name suggests, an effort by NPN to develop a product for the international market. Another industry magazine I edited was Fuel Oil News, or FON. This magazine is historic as well, dating back to, I believe, 1937. Fuels Market News, or FMN, was the last magazine I helmed. I helped found the magazine in 2013 with two partners. The primary purpose was to replace the void left when NPN magazine was shut down. That was essentially a fuel-centric print product designed to serve fuel retailers, fuel wholesale marketers, and commercial fuel buyers. I really couldn't tell you the amount of content I've produced over the past 26 years. The number of magazines, well over 100 that I've got out the door as editor-in-chief. The number of articles, I couldn't even begin. 500 would be a very low figure. Number of words, maybe in the seven figures. And that's just with the mainstream publications. I've submitted a fair amount of content for NACS magazine, covering some of their fuels areas. Submitted a fair amount of content back in my NPN days for Tobacco Retailer. Produced content for a variety of side projects. In a previous life, I was the communications manager for the Water Quality Association, and I spent 5 years generating all their internal and external content. And, for a couple of years as a freelancer after that, submitted content to a number of other trade publications. But, it's been a calling, and I've enjoyed it. And I'm really excited now with Rack to Retail to not only continue that calling, but to explore some new avenues. FMN was acquired by the National Association of Convenience Stores in 2020, and we had a pretty good run. But the magazine was unfortunately closed for financial reasons at the end of 2025. I want to state very clearly there are absolutely no hard feelings. NACS is a great organization. It's so much more than the trade show for what it does for the industry. Great folks working there. Some of these people have been friends of mine, going back to my start in the industry 26 years ago. Honestly, it's kind of a continuation of a pattern I had started to notice, as early as the end of the National Petroleum News days. If you remember back a couple decades ago, we had that massive impact of digital media with traditional print publishing. And just like that old black and white silent film era movie clip of the two steam engines crashing into each other on a railroad track, Well, that was kind of the impact of digital media meeting print media. Um, Revenue models were disrupted, ad rates were disrupted, confusion and chaos was sown into publishing and media industry, and a lot of good publications went out of business because they couldn't adapt. And today, there's some really strong print magazines out there. There's, of course, a very large and diverse digital media footprint out there, but I still think the totality of it, hasn't quite caught up to, what existed in publishing as such before this transformation occurred. If you look a bit closer to our industry, the fuels marketing side, vibrant part of the industry, a lot going on, critical to the industry. From a revenue standpoint, always a bit of a challenge. If you look at the retail side, the thing I've really noticed, and I think you have as well if you've been following industry publishing and industry content, is that, it's really dominated by what goes on inside the store. The categories, packaged goods, beverage, tobacco, alcohol, energy drinks as part of beverage, food service, of course. There is coverage of what goes on in the forecourt. There is coverage of, the technology side of the industry. But from a return on investment standpoint, you see most of the coverage and most of the focus shifting to where the dollars are. And while there is revenue on those fuels and charging and infrastructure technology sides, there's far more revenue opportunity, inside the box. That's not a criticism. Most of you watching this, have a significant understanding of how business works. So, the cost of producing a print magazine is extraordinarily high. Every page in that magazine has to be supported with ad revenue. Therefore, both the focus and the ad revenue tend to converge. Again, not a mystery here. Doesn't mean, though, that the need for that content, serving fuels, charging, operations, uh, technology, the need for that content is still vibrant. Doesn't mean that there are not revenue opportunities for folks like myself. At least I hope so. Can't do this as a vanity project. Doesn't mean there aren't revenue opportunities out there to provide that content, but what it does mean is that it has to be extremely tightly focused and extremely efficient. And by going digital, I think I can accomplish that. As noted, video content will feature prominently in the new venture. This will occur alongside text, which will be featured on my website. Now, video's not new to me. I've been doing it back to 2009. I would say that if I wasn't the first trade journalist to bring a camera onto the NAC show floor, I was one of the first. Before that, you had CSP TV and then NACS TV, and they were a different format. There was a platform, a couple of seats, a camera. People would be brought out and filmed and then go back in. But it occurred to me one day to just grab a camera and head out onto the trade show floor and interview exhibitors and attendees and association officials. And of course, it became more and more common since then. And nowadays it's almost ubiquitous. So for me, what's old, is now very new again. One video venue for me will be YouTube at my channel, Rack to Retail. And in case you're watching this on YouTube, it's time for that typical YouTube dance. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons and ring the bell to help the channel grow, and make sure you're notified when new content launches. I guess I'm going to be saying that a lot moving forward. Here's a short clip from one of my first uploads with the Transportation Energy Institute's John Eichberger, covering a report the organization launched.
There are 1.5 billion combustion vehicles in the world. And a statement I always do in my presentations, if you think we're facing a climate crisis and that we can save the world by replacing 1.5 billion vehicles, you've already given up. It's just, it takes way too long. I've done the fleet transition analysis in the United States, and it is a multi-decades process to get anything ubiquitous in the transportation space. In the United States, there's 300 million vehicles in operation. We sell 15 to 16 million light duty vehicles a year. We retire, about 5% of the fleet every year. But to turn it over is going to take a very long time.
I had talked about text and the website. Now let's explore the website a bit. As noted, all of the content that is text-based will be available through the website, Rack to Retail. For that matter, all of the content that is produced, text or video, can be accessed from here. You can access featured content, which will be longer form articles. You can access shorter form news announcements as such. The website is organized in some common sense ways for our industry. The Rack to Retail newsletter will launch several weeks after the media project is formally announced. You can subscribe here. And the purpose of the newsletter is basically to let you know what's new, whether that's text or video, anything that I want to bring to the audience's attention. The goal with all of this is to be able to allow you to access any new content I produced, know what's out there, whether you go to the YouTube channel, you come to the website, or you open the newsletter that's in your inbox. And as promised, you can access video either through the YouTube channel or without the YouTube advertising through my private hosting. Again, the website is www.racktoretail.com. Again, that's www.racktoretail.com. Most of all, I want Rack to Retail in all its forms to be a collaborative home for all facets of the industry: retailers, wholesalers, consultants, association leaders, solution providers. Thanks for your time.